Lita and Becky Lynch are set to challenge for the WWE Women's Tag Team Championships. However, plans for Trish Stratus to return last night on Raw were reportedly scrapped, but she is still set to return at some point. We've got the latest details on that. Plus, Omos has challenged Brock Lesnar for a match at WrestleMania 39. Who wanted that? But we've got details on that too. Edge challenged for the US Championship last night unsuccessfully after Finn Balor cost him the title on Raw. Speaking of Balor, we've got an update on the Demon version of Balor set to return to WWE before those plans were also scrapped. Cody Rhodes and Paul Heyman continued to make it personal last night on Raw. Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens go face to face. Corey Graves throws shade at AEW President Tony Khan on Raw. Dominic Mysterio and Rhea Ripley are set for Smackdown this week. What's the latest for Beth Phoenix's status on the WWE roster? And JTG was backstage at Elimination Chamber. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there are plenty of news stories to get into in the world of WWE. We've got a jam-packed show today. Let's get straight into the latest WWE news, beginning with Lita, Becky Lynch, Trish Stratus, Bayley, Damage Control. What is going on? Well, quite a lot, certainly. 2 weeks ago on Monday Night Raw, Lita returned to ward off Damage Control's Dakota Kai and Io Sky, helping Becky Lynch defeat Bayley in a steel cage match in the process. As it turns out, that wasn't a one-off on Monday night's edition of Raw from the Canadian Tire Centre in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. She returned alongside Lynch again, but this time it was to make a challenge for a match for the WWE Women's Tag Team Championships. It's worth noting that while the match has been made official for next week, it was actually Bayley who accepted the title challenge on behalf of her Damage Control cohorts, much to the displeasure of Kai and Sky. After a brief back and forth that included the role model declaring them the greatest women's tag team champions of all time, Lita and Lynch goaded her into accepting by suggesting that the champions were afraid to defend their titles. After all, their last championship defense came all the way back on the December 16 episode of Smackdown against Liv Morgan and Tegan Nox. Additionally, Kai and Sky haven't wrestled on WWE television since the January 2nd episode of Raw when they defeated Lynch and Mia Yim. As for the Hall of Famer Lita, she might be a little bit rusty as well. Her last match came at the Elimination Chamber last year event, which she, of course, lost against, ironically enough, Becky Lynch while competing for the Raw Women's Championship. However, there was some confusion here because we had been promised, I guess, or it had been reported for weeks that Trish Stratus would be showing up as part of this ongoing storyline, but she wasn't there. Most people expected her to show up. It was in Canada last night, Raw, but she wasn't there. According to Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Select, a major segment involving a huge return was supposed to go down on the February 20 episode of Monday Night Raw, but it didn't. Trish Stratus was set to return during the Ding Dong Hello segment with Bayley, but it didn't end up happening. Instead, Lita and Becky Lynch showed up and made a challenge for the Women's Tag Team Championships. Details are few and so far between, but it was confirmed to Fightful that Trish Stratus was the original plan. In fact, Trish Stratus, not only was it the plan, she was physically at the show in Ottawa, but left before the segment happened. When Fightful asked what ended up happening, they were simply told, quote, creative change, which they'll dig more in about. So Stratus, again, she left before the segment even happened, and they're saying it's a creative change. Is there heat? Is there an issue? We don't know. As I mentioned, it had been previously reported prior to the show that Stratus was at Raw, and she was listed internally for that Ding Dong Hello segment. Now, WRKD Wrestling, who has been all over this story from the beginning, being the first to report that Stratus was going to be involved in this storyline, has now provided further details on Twitter stating, quote, in case you couldn't tell, plans changed last minute tonight. Be patient, hang in there. Trish is still on the way, and she'll be working a storyline she's wanted to do for quite some time. Now, what the plans are and what the storyline will be are unknown at this point. Certainly, I mentioned WRKD Wrestling had previously stated that Stratus was set to make her return to Raw, but rolled back on that following their initial tweet on the subject. Certainly it's interesting, and I'm sure more details will come out. Of course, once we get them, we'll let you know here on the channel. Now, one thing certainly a lot of people didn't see coming last night on Raw was a challenge for Brock Lesnar from Omos for a WrestleMania match. Yes, this is a real thing. A bit like Kevin Owens said on Smackdown all those years ago, nobody asked for that. If things keep going at this rate, Brock Lesnar is going to have a pretty full dance card come WrestleMania 39. This past Saturday at the Elimination Chamber event, the Beast Incarnate lost the rubber match against Bobby Lashley by getting himself disqualified. However, it would seem premature to say that their feud is over. Last Friday on Smackdown, Bray Wyatt, of course, challenged the winner of that match, and now on Raw, Omos has emerged as a possible opponent for a WrestleMania match against Lesnar. The 7'3" 416-pound Nigerian giant Omos is issuing a challenge to face you at WrestleMania, MVP declared on Raw. Show up next week to accept the challenge in person if you have the intestinal fortitude, MVP declared. Now, Omos was unsuccessful during the men's Royal Rumble match last month, but he did pick up a victory the last time he wrestled on WWE TV, a victory in just over 2 minutes against Elias on Raw. In terms of premium live events, the last time the Nigerian giant competed in a singles bout came in November at Crown Jewel. That day, Braun Strowman needed just over 7 minutes to dispatch of him, but one wrinkle may remain in all of this, and that is the almighty himself, Bobby Lashley. In recent weeks, MVP has been trying to get the Hurt Business back together, starting with Cedric Alexander and Shelton Benjamin. In between that, he's continued to check in with former WWE champion Bobby Lashley. All that being said, we'll have to wait until next week to find out whether or not Lashley shows up, or Lesnar rather, shows up to accept the WrestleMania challenge to face Omos, but certainly people going, who asked for that? And it could imply that just maybe we get Lesnar versus Omos at WrestleMania, and we get Bray Wyatt versus Bobby Lashley. Who saw that coming? Creative, certainly surprising us. Now, last night we saw a United States Championship match. Edge faced off against Austin Theory, but it didn't work out well for the Rated R superstar. Is Finn Balor set to receive the honor of possibly being Edge's final WrestleMania opponent? The closing moments of last night's edition of Raw in Ottawa sure seemed to hint at a grudge match between Edge and Balor at WrestleMania 39, where the Rated R superstar could wrestle his last ever match at the Showcase of Immortals. While Edge has yet to confirm the timeline of his retirement, the Hall of Famer had earlier suggested the possibility of retiring in the summer of 2023 when WWE returns to his hometown of Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Following the Elimination Chamber event last Saturday, Edge remained non-committal on a retirement date, but did confirm that he plans on calling it quits in the near future. The seeds for the Balor vs. Edge match were planted after the latter failed to capture the United States Championship from Austin Theory in the main event of last night's show. Towards the closing stages of the bout, Edge gained the upper hand when he nailed an execution and seemed just minutes away from winning the gold for the first time since returning to WWE in 2020. Of course, he is a prior US champion, but that was all the way back in 2001. However, Balor made a timely save by punching Edge off the apron, allowing Theory to follow up with an A-Town down for the victory. After the match, Balor struck Edge with a coup de grace on 3 consecutive occasions, and as he yelled, "This is not over, this is just the beginning." Fans had previously speculated that Edge's year-long rivalry with the Judgment Day ended at Elimination Chamber, where Edge and Beth Phoenix prevailed over Balor and Rhea Ripley. However, all signs do point to another Edge versus Balor match, possibly at WrestleMania 39. Balor has previously defeated Edge in a chaotic I Quit match at the Extreme Rules Premium Live event last October. Since returning to WWE in 2020, Edge has wrestled the likes of AJ Styles, Daniel Bryan, and Roman Reigns, and Randy Orton on the grandest stage of them all. Now, when it comes to Austin Theory as well, and we're going to touch on Finn Balor's possible character in just a second, but when it comes to Austin Theory seemingly planted the seeds for a John Cena match last night on Raw. Of course, as I mentioned, Theory retained his US title at Elimination Chamber this past weekend. Of course, he had the match against Edge last night on Raw, with news that John Cena is set to return to WWE on the road to WrestleMania. Theory spoke on this in a WWE Digital exclusive as well as on Raw last night, saying, quote, "The headlines now, they certainly read Austin Theory is the now and the forever of WWE. That little John Cena thing 2 weeks away, Monday Night Raw, John Cena, I can't wait for that. I can't wait to bring him home and give him a warm welcome to Monday Night Raw. You want to know why? Because things are a little different around here now. Remember that." So certainly, again, John Cena could be welcomed by Austin Theory in a couple of weeks on Monday Night Raw, which again would seemingly hint and imply that they're going to be facing off on the grandest stage of them all this year. Now, we spoke about Finn Balor. What about the demon version of Finn Balor? What is that character going to be coming back to WWE TV? Well, according to reports, that was the plan, but like several plans recently, they changed and were scrapped. According to Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Select, the Demon version of Finn Balor was planned for a return internally, but it didn't end up happening. As WrestlingNews.co reported back in December, original WWE Royal Rumble plans called for Edge to take on Finn Balor at the Royal Rumble to further the Judgment Day vs. Edge feud that's been going on for nearly a year. However, Edge's filming schedule didn't allow for that to happen, and the program ended up getting nixed. The match was scheduled to be a Hell in a Cell match, one that doesn't typically happen at the Royal Rumble. However, there was even more to it. Based on internal plans, not only was Edge vs. Finn Balor listed as a Hell in a Cell match for the Royal Rumble, but the Demon version of Finn Balor was also slated to perform. Balor has used the persona 7 times in WWE on the main roster, last appearing at Extreme Rules in a loss to Universal Champion Roman Reigns in 2021. It became a SummerSlam staple for a few years, but it's never been unlocked at the Royal Rumble. Some that Fightful spoke to felt as if the Demon persona didn't fit during the current iteration of the Judgment Day and were against it in this situation, while others felt like the match would have needed that extra buzz of its returning. So again, that's not to say that it's been completely scrapped moving forward. We still could see it at WrestleMania. We could still see that Hell in a Cell match at WrestleMania. We could see a different version of the Demon, a purple version, a Judgment Day version. But one thing's for sure, we did not see that at the Royal Rumble. Cody Rhodes and Paul Heyman continued the feud between Rhodes and Roman Reigns as we get closer to WrestleMania, keeping it personal on Monday Night Raw. Paul Heyman has got very personal with Cody Rhodes on last night's Raw, referencing his wife Brandi Rhodes, although not by name. Rhodes and Heyman faced off on Raw for the first time since the WrestleMania showdown between Rhodes and Reigns was officially official after this past weekend's Elimination Chamber event. While Cody had barely made his entrance to the ring, he was interrupted by Paul Heyman on screen, who claimed to be backstage but wasn't coming to the ring due to the mauling he faced on Saturday at Elimination Chamber. While he had the safety of distance, Heyman took the time to remind Cody that should he best Roman Reigns for his Undisputed Championship, he would uncertainly not have the schedule that Reigns has. Without the special counsel and representation of Paul Heyman, Rhodes could expect to spend 300 plus days a year on the road, with Heyman questioning if that was really the life Cody wanted for his wife and child. Going a step further and making mention, although not by name, of Cody's lovely wife Brandi Rhodes, Heyman said he would keep her company in Cody's absence. When Heyman did his own mic drop, albeit slightly less satisfying with a clip on, he had clearly rattled Rhodes. Cody then addressed the camera and Roman Reigns directly, starting with an epic, "Do not send that man again," before sending a concrete message. It doesn't matter how great of a champion Roman Reigns is, Cody has to finish the story at WrestleMania. Now, Cody Rhodes has also apologized for his time being cut on Raw because of Paul Heyman. In a tweet, Rhodes said, quotes, "Sorry the mic time got cut short and apologies for losing my temper a bit, but more importantly, Ottawa, I wasn't sure you'd be interested in the merch for the next and for the American Nightmare. Boy, was I wrong. Thank you very much, and next time, hopefully I'll be in action. Wonderful night." Now, a fan also shared a photo of the Cody Rhodes merch they bought at the WWE shop, and it's a tiny little Cody Rhodes doll. How very cute. Certainly as well. Now, speaking of Raw, as mentioned, it was in Ottawa, it was in Canada, and Sami Zayn, as one would expect, opened the show and came face to face with his former best friend, I guess future best friend, frenemy, whatever you want to call him, Kevin Owens. After coming up short against Roman Reigns at Elimination Chamber this past Saturday, Canada's own Sami Zayn kicked off Monday Night's Raw live from the Canadian Tire Centre in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. Once again, he received a raucous ovation that is, from the crowd, and once again he expressed his gratitude for it before declaring, "Around here, the story is never over." Zayn then called out the man who made the save on his behalf this past weekend, his lifelong best friend Kevin Owens. Zayn began by saying there was so much he wanted to say to Owens, but now they were face to face, he didn't know what to say. He started by thanking him and apologizing to him before explaining that his sole goal is to take down the bloodline and watch them crumble, that he wouldn't stop until they did. However, he admitted that neither he nor Owens could do it alone, which is why he proposed that instead he and KO do it together. The prize fighter didn't give Zayn the reaction he was looking for, however, declaring that he didn't need an apology. He took it one step further and said he didn't storm the ring on Saturday for Zayn, but for himself. He did it for his own family, the same family that had to watch Owens get brutalized by Reigns and his family while accusing Sami of just standing there. Finally, Owens made his position perfectly clear, stating, quote, "I still mean everything I said back in November after Survivor Series. I told you I was done with you, and that still stands today." Now, after that, Zayn was attacked by Baron Corbin, who made a sneak attack on Sami Zayn after the opening segment. It seemed like perhaps it was over, but it was not. After he waged a beatdown on Zayn during the picture-in-picture break, he got in the ring to brag about having done so. By the time the show was back from commercial, the officials were both tending to Sami and encouraged him not to rush to the ring as Corbin continued. Noting he interrupted Sami because he was interrupted last week, Corbin went on to insult Zayn enough, calling him a failure, etc., that Adam Pearce, instead of holding Zayn back, stepped aside. The match was made official as the Ottawa crowd was excited to see Sami get his aggression out on Corbin after his rude words. After a big back and forth match between the two, thrilled the crowd with a few near falls. In the end, it was Zayn who picked up the victory after hitting a haluva kick. So Sami won the match. Will he win the war against the Bloodline? I guess we'll have to wait and see to find out. Now, obviously, there have been a lot of shots at Tony Khan due to his back and forth with Ariel Helwani after Smackdown on Friday. After Michael Cole threw shade at AEW CEO Tony Khan during the Elimination Chamber broadcast, Corey Graves has joined in and taken a shot at the AEW president. During a match with The Miz and Seth freaking Rollins, Corey Graves took a dig at the recent Tony Khan fracas with MMA personality and occasional WWE contributor Ariel Helwani. Referring to The Miz as an unbiased journalist, he also added that they were rife with those at WWE. After Ariel Helwani appeared on Friday night's edition of Smackdown, Tony Khan lashed out on Twitter, kicking off a back and forth exchange that has exploded since then. The situation remains a hot topic even now, with Helwani commenting on it in depth on his MMA Hour show. We're going to talk about all of that later on today in today's AEW news video, so be sure to check that out. But certainly, I don't think that story's going anywhere anytime soon. Dominic Mysterio and Rhea Ripley are set for Smackdown this week. In a sit-down interview on Raw last night, Rhea Ripley noted that she planned on coming face-to-face with Charlotte Flair this week on Smackdown. With Judgment Day buddy Dominic Mysterio by her side, he also pledged to pop up on SmackDown since his deadbeat dad, Rey Mysterio, would also be in attendance. The pair last ran into the elder Mysterio in a very amusing Valentine's Day segment, which can be seen on social media, and certainly it would look like the seed will continue to be planted for Dominic versus Rey at WrestleMania, and of course, Rhea Ripley and Charlotte Flair will come face-to-face for the first time since Ripley announced she'll be facing Charlotte Flair for the SmackDown Women's Championship at the Showcase of the Immortals this year. What's going on with Beth Phoenix? What's her roster status right now? Of course, she returned to action this past weekend at Elimination Chamber. She teamed with her husband Edge in a victory over the Judgment Day's Rhea Ripley and Finn Balor. Despite her absence from October to January, Edge is still listed as a member of the Raw roster. However, Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Select has provided an update on Phoenix, saying that she's actually listed as unassigned to either Raw or SmackDown on WWE's internal documents. Since they both returned at the Royal Rumble 2023, Phoenix has been appearing on Raw alongside Edge to combat the Judgment Day. Whether or not, again, she's going to be wrestling regularly on WWE TV, I kind of doubt it. Is she going to be involved in WrestleMania? Maybe in her husband's corner, but wrestling, I'm not sure. But again, she's not actually listed to any roster officially as of right now. Finally, JTG, a former WWE superstar, was backstage this past weekend at Elimination Chamber. According to a report from Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Select, there was at least one familiar face backstage at Elimination Chamber. JTG of Crime Time was at Elimination Chamber for a visit. The report noted that he does maintain a positive relationship with the company. Of course, Crime Time was a WWE tag team comprised of JTG and the late Shad Gaspard from the 2010s. Of course, Gaspard tragically passed away in 2020. He was previously honored with the Warrior Award at the Hall of Fame ceremony last year, which was tremendous to see. But there you go, guys. It's the latest WWE news for you. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. Let me know your thoughts on today's WWE news stories in the comment section below. Remember, you can join the WN365 roster by clicking that join button, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.